faithful, but she wasn't soft necessarily. But you were aware of her love for people because she just did it. One of the best things that I got to do with her when I was probably my girl's age, so 11 or 12. She was a beautician at a nursing home, Deaconess Manor, which is down by Deaconess Hospital across from Forest Park. She had a little shop in the basement. And during summer vacations or spring break or whatever, I would go 1 or 2 days a week with her to just help. So I would push wheelchairs from a resident's room to the elevator, down to her beauty shop in the basement, and she would wash their hair and set it and color it blue most of the time. And then comb it out, tell them how beautiful they were, and I would take them back to their room. So she paid me pretty well at the time. I think I was getting like $40 a day, which in 1985 is pretty good money for a 10 or 11-year-old. So there's one story that illustrates her compassion pretty well. It was a day that I was there working with her, and there was a resident there, a gentleman, and she would cut and trim and shave the gentleman there too. She used a straight razor on her face, and would give him the towel treatment and all of that. But there was one who was bedridden and couldn't come down to the shop, so she would go up to his room, and she would do the best she could while he was in his bed. So we go up to his room, and she walks up to the bed and starts to try to wake him, and she's, again, not like, she's not gentle. She's tapping this man like, Mr. Russell, it's time, I'm here, I'm gonna cut your hair now. And she kept trying to wake him, and she turned around and looked at me and said, I believe that man's dead. She goes out and she finds a nurse, and they come in and confirm that he had indeed passed. And she said, if it's all the same to you, I'm gonna go ahead and cut his hair, because I'm gonna do it better than the nursing home, or than the funeral parlor would. So she went ahead, and I didn't assist with this one. I was a little squeamish about that, but I stood kind of in the distance and I watched as she treated this man with dignity and compassion. This man had passed, but she treated him as if she would, had he still been alive, and she gently washed his hair and shaved his face and trimmed his hair and combed it, knowing that she wanted him to look as good as he could at his funeral, whatever, when his family came to see him. That was, to me, early on, an illustration of how my grandma loved. She just did it, and she did it without flair or without much pomp and circumstance, but she did it faithfully, and she did it with compassion. And I was grateful to have been her grandson. She was as good a granny as you could have expected, and I think all of us, all 4 of us, would argue that we were her favorite, but that's the sign of a good grandma, is when you all think that you're her favorite, right? That she loves you that well. So I would say that I was, but I'm sure Kristen and Cole and my sister could all argue the very same thing, because that's how she loved. So I appreciate you spending